particularly how to use reference materials. Objectives, we're going to consult the thesauruses and other reference materials to find the pronunciations and clarify the meaning of words, and compose a response paragraph about the anchor text. Let's begin by discussing the response paragraph expected of you based on the narrative nonfiction They Called Her Molly Pitcher. So, essential question, how do individual acts of bravery shape history? So, in Write About Reading, you're going to be composing a response paragraph about this narrative nonfiction, of course, basing your reasons and your supporting details on text evidence. So instructions for Write About Reading, which you're going to do in your English 1 copybooks, would be this. Molly Pitcher went with her husband when he joined Baron von Steuben at Valley Forge. Think about the contributions that she made to the American Revolution by helping the soldiers. So in this Write About Reading task, you have to compose 2 paragraphs describing Molly Pitcher's actions and how they showed her bravery or courage and helped shape history. So you have to include quotations and other text evidence to support your statements. You are also free to use other reference materials such as your social studies textbook in order for you to enrich the contents of your response paragraph. Now let's proceed to our vocabulary strategy. Consulting reference materials. So reference materials are these kinds of resources that we use to get information. Reference materials would include dictionaries if we want to find the meanings of words. Okay, we also have what we call thesauruses or the thesaurus, which gives us synonyms and antonyms of specific words. Of course, we do have the encyclopedia if we want a wide range of information about specific topics. We have maps, atlases, and we even have newspapers. So we're going to focus on using dictionaries and thesauruses for this particular lesson. So let's read the sample paragraph we have in here. The women of the Revolution. The role of women during the American Revolution is legendary. These brave women did not have the formal rank of soldiers, but they often did the same jobs. They fought their foes with courage. They risked their lives to perform daring deeds on the battlefields. Molly Pitcher was one such woman. Her discipline under fire was noticed by none other than wily General George Washington. He saw her firing the cannon on the field at Monmouth Courthouse. When he found out who she was, he rewarded Molly Pitcher by making her a sergeant. With women like Molly on his side, Washington was sure that his strategy to move forward, not retreat, would succeed. So we have in here some words, okay, that we have to identify the synonyms of. So we have legendary, formal, rank, discipline, wily, strategy, and retreat. So usually we're going to rely on context, and we do that for most of our vocabulary activities. We do rely on context on the way that these words are used in sentences, okay? So that is one very useful technique. However, for this particular lesson, you will be using your handy dictionary if you have the physical dictionary with you and you were taught how to use the dictionary properly in the previous years and also in our class. So you can use that, okay, or you can check an online dictionary or online thesaurus, okay? So we have the word legendary first. Okay, so legendary comes from the root word legend, okay? So someone who is a legend is someone who is well known, okay? The acts of bravery, acts of courage of a legendary person is known across history. Okay, so checking the dictionary or the thesaurus, legendary might mean famous, well-known, or notable. Now let's go to formal. Okay, so formal, if you can find it here in the second sentence, these brave women did not have the formal rank of soldiers, but they often did the same jobs. Okay, they did not have the title of soldiers. Okay, the formal names, okay, given to soldiers who are males. Okay, because that was the accepted practice at that time, that the males would be soldiers and then the women would be corresponders. They would be nurses. They would help in terms of espionage, okay, or they would act as spies, okay, for these soldiers. Now, when you say formal, you check the dictionary. Formal would mean proper, official, or legal. So they did not have the proper or official title that soldiers who are men during that time would have. Next, checking the thesaurus, we have the word rank. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, rank, if you're talking about the military, if you're talking about soldiers, would mean status, level, or position. Okay, so as you know, soldiers, they have different ranks. So a foot soldier would have basically a more subordinate or a lower rank compared to General George Washington. Okay, so under General George Washington, there are other um, commanders. Okay, there are platoon leaders, there are legion bearers. Okay, and they differ in terms of rank or status. Next, we have discipline. So checking thesaurus, discipline would mean self-control or orderliness. Okay, so where do we find discipline over here in our uh, paragraph? Okay, so Molly Pitcher was one such woman. Her discipline under fire was noticed by none other than General George Washington. If you would recall in the story, she was very composed even as she was firing the cannon and defeating the enemies one after another. Now let's go to the word wily. Okay, so it's one of the adjectives used to describe General George Washington. So if you're a general, you're an army commander, you're a military man, you have to be wily. So checking the thesaurus, wily would mean extremely smart or distinguished. Of course, battle plan is essentially a game. Okay, it's a game of outwitting your enemies, right? If you're not wily enough like George Washington, then your battle plan, your stratagems would go nowhere. Next is strategy. Okay, so what do you think is the meaning of strategy? Check your thesaurus, and most likely you would have these synonyms. You have design, plan, or scheme, like war strategy. Talks about how exactly are you going to defeat your enemies, okay? Where are you going to situate your men? Are you going to be on higher ground? How are you going to use your weapons? All of these are forms of strategy. Last one is retreat. Like in this sentence, with women like Molly on his side, Washington was sure that his strategy to move forward, not retreat, would succeed. So you have a clue right here. Moving forward versus retreating. Okay, so checking your thesaurus, you would know that retreat would mean to flee, to retire, or to withdraw. Basically, to surrender. Okay, good thing that the American army did not surrender. Had they done that, of course, they would not have the independence that they were dreaming about. So now that we know how to use reference materials, we're ready to answer this page in our RNB. So it says in the directions, consult a thesaurus to help you choose a word from the list to complete each series of synonyms or words that have similar meanings. Following each series is another word. Is it a synonym or antonym of the other words? Circle it if it is an antonym and underline if it is a synonym. Okay, so again, you may check online thesaurus if you don't have the physical thesaurus with you. We have the following words: magnificent, facilitate, wounded, precedent, substitute, legend, courageous, and feminine. So the first one we have is grand. Grand also means the same as splendid. Okay, so what do you think would be the best terminology or the best word that would go with grand and splendid based on our choices? If your answer is magnificent, then you are correct. Now, looking at the word here on the right, okay, you have the word wonderful. Do you think wonderful means the same or means the opposite as these three other words? So wonderful is a synonym of these words, right? So what do you need to do? you have to underline the synonym. Next, let's proceed to number 2, female. Female means the same as ladylike. So which of the choices above would mean the same as these two words? So if your answer is feminine, then you are correct. Okay? Now looking at the word on the right, you have the word masculine. So masculine refers to male or boyish qualities. Do you think masculine is a synonym or an antonym of these three? Very good. It's an antonym. So what do you do with antonyms? You have to encircle them. So please do the rest of the items 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Consult reference materials as needed. So you may check out more in our References Journeys 2017 student book, RNB, and other resources. I will see you in the next video.